Good Monday evening, peoples in North America. It is Tuesday morning here in Asia, and I am happy to get out the Rex declarations. So let me go through those and give you just what they're paying, and then I'll go back through all my competitive analysis. So their MSII fund, which is based on the underlying of MicroStrategy, paid 2671. The COII based underlying fund from Rex paid 2941, and their NVIDIA underlying based NVII, again, these are weekly payers, paid 2472. Their Tesla underlying fund, TSII, paid 2343. So let's jump in here in NVIDIA. So these are the dates. So the actual declaration was 721, and then the X date is 722. So you can't get this on Tuesday. They announce kind of, I don't know exactly what time, but it's usually when I'm sleeping over here. So when I get up in the morning, I put these out. It's a lot of work. It takes me a good hour and a half to update all of this data because I'm doing a lot of competitive analysis. Okay. And two or three of these are weeklies, and one of them is a monthly, which is the NVIDIA Yield Max. But the others, the Round Hill, the Granite, and now the Rex are paying these things on a weekly basis. Granite used to be monthly and converted to weekly. So let's jump in here. So what's happened over the last week? Well, you have some paydays, right? So NVIII is announced the other day 51.7. We have the new Rex paying 24.72. Now remember, don't just look at the dollar amounts. You have to look at the price of the underlying. Although Granite has been paying real well. Let's see how they do on a competitive performance. And then NVDW just on Friday announced a 0.473, and NVIDIA just declared 1029, right? And paid that, I believe, now. So anytime they're declared, I include them. All right. And then we'll get to see not only daily, but we get to see in the comparative how they stack up, who's doing better. This is sort of the daily bent. Now, I know Master Trader, you asked me to add some columns and all that, but honestly, I didn't want to get this out any later than it already is. I'll try to make a note to get that done. But it's a lot of work to keep this thing up to date like this. Um, so I hope it's appreciated. All right, guys, let's jump in. So you can see here the last, we had through 14 last time. Well, here we are on 15. And what happened on 15? Well, we had big moves relative. Look at the underlying. We had a 4% move, a daily move. That's a big move, 164 to 170. So how did Granite do on that? Who, again, they always say they're leveraged, but it's not showing up as leveraged. So that's fine. They're paying a lot and appreciate that. But look at NVDW, which is claiming 120% leverage on their weekly payers. You see that leverage. You see a 4.76. So that is showing up. This 2.09, I'm not buying it. So let's see, on a $27 stock, NVII paid 51. What is the price of NVII? It's actually higher. Okay, it's a 30.86 here versus a 27.4. So clearly they're outpaying like 2 to 1, and they're lesser priced. The question I ask always is, how is the fund holding its NAV? That's what total return always matters. So we'll look at those stats. All right. And NVDW is a $50 stock, and it paid 47. So again, it's not showing up as paying as much. But listen to you guys, I don't want you chasing yield traps. I'm not saying it till I go over and look at the competitive analysis, right? So, but that's what you want to be careful of. That's the old yield max. I can't figure out what the new yield max is. If they just don't want to pay us and we're really going to get it at year end, or and they're trying to save nav erosion, they don't communicate that. There's a lot of speculation that's what they're doing. Well, I know personally for me, if they don't pay up this round on AMD and COII, that I'm showing the dollars in the door. A little less so with COII. COII should be 80 cents at least. AMD should be $1, really. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of people. And if they go that IV on that and keep all that money, after that IV went at least 2.5 months out, sorry, that synthetic that they finally cashed and put all that cash in. Otherwise, it was just a paper gain. All right, let's keep focused on this, but it's relative to who's paying more, who's got nav erosion, right? Total return. I can't tell you guys enough on that. All right. So following that theme, 476 for NVDW. Awesome. 272 for NVIDIA. Hey, it's not as good as the underlying, but we've learned it's close to 3/4. If it was $3, it'd be 0.667. So it had a 50% move. That's all right. Look at this. NVII did better. They had a 3/4 move. So that's the kind of stuff you look for. These are relative. We don't have anything else that stands out. Let's go back and look at this one again. We had a 4.84 down move. Okay. Well, NVYY only went down 0.89. Gotta love that. And then, and again, if you catch this on a declaration ex dividend day, then you see why NVDW, right? Because they paid out. Um, so they were down a little bit more. And they do have the 120% leverage. Let's see, NVII down 4.5. So they did a little better. And then you had NVIDIA up. Don't know that I fully understand that, but that's what I'm showing. Okay. But that's great if it was, but that doesn't make a lot of sense just looking at this. All right. But every once in a while you have outliers. All right, let's jump into the Tesla fund. Remember, I'm going to do excuse me, guys. I'm going to do a comparison of all the funds as they're moving through. This is just the detailed deep dive. So what did TSII pay? 23 cents. Well, Granite paid 25 a few days ago, and I even included Curve. They're monthly, so they're due another week or so. And we had Tesla declared paid not too long ago, but they're coming up again in a couple of weeks. And then we had TSLW pay the other day, 38306. But let's go through and see if there's, Tesla's had definitely big days. Let's look at this 3.5 and this 3.21, and we can go back and look down here. So on a 3.5% up day in the underlying, TSYY, the Granite shares, again, they're not really leveraged, but they're saying they're leveraged, but they're paying very well. So maybe that's good that they're not showing big down days or worse down days in the down. Doesn't look like their leverage is there. But they've said in their press that they're 200% leverage, but I don't see it. But hey, keep paying well, don't have NAV erosion, and people will buy your fund. 3.5%, 2.29. TSLP which is the curve fund, doesn't use leverage. It's a monthly payer, was up 2.77. So interesting, 3/4 of that move. What did you get from a known leverage, TSLW, round hill, 120%, guys? 4.2. So they're consistent with their up and down movement with their leverage, and they pay weekly. So that's why I really like round hill. Okay. Not necessarily in a bear market. All right. So what do we do with Tesla? Well, as you'd expect, it can't keep up, but neither can it. Did about what Granite did. Let's see which one pays the most. Of course, the issue there is they're not weekly, they're monthly. So you really have to wait that out. All right, look at TSII Rex, who we're talking about. They beat the underlying of Tesla. So they didn't do what the leverage did, but they beat all of the other funds, okay, that are non-leveraged supposedly. All right, let's look at one more. Let's look at this 3.21. Well, look at this. It had a TSYY down 2.33. And then you had TSLP, the curve fund, down 1.4. Why? I don't think this is relative here to when they actually paid. They haven't paid for a while. So I'm going to take this formatting off. The more you try and do, the more work you create for yourself here. Yeah, we got a little time before they're going to pay again. All right. So TSLW, everybody's in there. The competitive is really going to tell us, guys. All right, MSTR, right? The underlying for MISTI, for MST, for MSII, for IMST, and then obviously the underlying. Let's look over at the underlying. Let's jump back here on one we would have talked about, and then we'll cover this 6.23 down move and see how everybody did. We'll look at this 3% up move, but let's review the 6.57. So here is MSTR. How did MISTI do? Well, 2/3, not quite 2/3, around 63, 62, 63% of the up move. That's good though on a big up move like that. But that you're never going to get 100% on the big. It just can't happen. All right, how did IMST? Well, they remember that $7 payment and then they dropped down 701 to $1.86. Well, they're still, about 10 days out from paying us again. So we shall see. And we'll look at the comparison just to see how they continue to rank for you Bitwise IMST lovers. Jeff Park, I think, is the fund manager who's renowned. And then you guys know. All right, so let's continue that one over. 4-2, only a third of the move up. That's not particularly good. Okay, but remember, they say sometimes they don't sell all of that and they want to participate in the growth. Well, you're not showing me there. Now, I'll flip to something else in a minute where they do. Look at this, 72.96. But then you had a couple other funds that did better than that. All right, continuing on this. Look at MST. The leverage. Oh, sorry. Now, this is supposed to be a 200% leverage, guys. So your underlying goes up 657. Misty says, hey, I can capture 63% of that. IMST captures a third, a little more, about 35%. And what do you do here? In MST, that's supposed to have 200% leverage. Well, not showing up. It's not a declaration ex dividend date. Don't fully understand that one. And then you come over here to MSII, which is purported to have some leverage. They're showing me their leverage. All right, let's look at the 307. MISTI, 2/3, a clear 2/3 here, 66.7. Okay. And then what are you getting in IMST? They're underperforming on the upside. Don't know why, guys. Are they going to pay out massively? So now you got a 3.43 from MST. Remember, it's supposed to be 200% leverage. That's more like 125 or something. And then what do you have on MSII, which is leverage? Well, they can't keep up here, but they did do better than Misty, which has no leverage. So a tiny bit of leverage and then, 200%. So couldn't keep up. Let's look on this down day. Okay, we had a 6.23 down move in MSTR last Friday. Okay, Misty, as you'd expect, they took 90%, 85%. That's about the norm, right? You're making a little bit of money on your sold calls. So your synthetic is going to go down pretty much 100%, but you make money on those calls, so you end up at, 90% or 5/6. Um, and then you have here similar but more. Now IMST is purported to do better in leverage, but they're not moving up with the underlying at all. And yet, well, here's a down 1.93 where they only went down half. But this isn't good, guys. And you're going down more than Misty, but you're not showing me that you can keep up on the upside. So this is going to be interesting on that. Let's see what they declare ultimately. A lot of people will chase the yield. You yield chasers. All right. So 1.56 here for MST. Whoops, sorry, I'm on the 6.23. Oh, look at this. Oh, yeah. You're going down, it would have been 1246. So you went down about 190%. So you expect that, but you better start performing on the upside a little better than 307 to 343 because you're dropping down most of doubling. Look at this. Here's another 657, 629. That isn't going to get it done, guys. If you're going to go, you need to go with the leverage. They did declare on that day, but these are weeklies. They're, 50 cents. What was MST's payment? Yeah, 351. It's not enough to keep you, my opinion, that okay. So how about this point? So let's keep going. 11.4. What did MSII? Okay, more than IMST and more than Misty because they do have purported some leverage. So they were down a little more than the 623. They were down 648. All right, let's look at COII and then we'll go to all the competitors, right? And see how everything stacks. And in this one, I have one that you guys recommended. I think it's fairly new, this ICOI. All right. I don't know if that's bitwise or not. It probably is. Um, Now, I made a note down here that COII declares in 2 days, right? I did my Group C estimation. So, COII's going to pay somewhere between 50 cents and $1. I think they need to pay on the upside. I know I'll move my money out anything less than 80 cents. So that's just what I'm doing. But let's see what they do. And I just like you guys to know that, you can't include something that hasn't been declared. It's speculative, but you can think about it when you look at the competition, especially with these weekly guys. They're coming out every week, right? So when the monthly guy gets close, you want to mentally note it. Okay. We got a lot of up moves here, as you expect. I mean, COII's been running crazy. That's a little bit of the frustration when we can't get a good payment. COIW is just coming out and paying like crazy all the time. And, COII can't pay us when it comes at the month end. Oh, and everybody speculates, oh, they're just saving it not to get NAV erosion. Guys, you don't know that, right? It's called communication. Max, put it in writing. Tell us. No BS, no games. Okay. Let's take the first 262. How did ICOII do? 174. How did Roundhill do? There's their leverage at work. They're consistent. Look at every one of these. Take these three upsides. Look at Roundhill. That's why I've been touting Roundhill. 290 to 262, 411 to 315. Every time it is showing up, guys, the leverage works. Other people purported leverage. Let's look at COII. No leverage. Okay. That's actually a good up move for COII, taking 232 of 263. Now it starts to drop down a little more. 315, they're basically back to their 66%, which is still decent on that kind of move. It's the 35, 40, 45 that's not so good. And that's what they're doing overall. In this last month for COII, they're able to capture about 40% of the up move of coin at the whole month level. Any YouTuber, anybody that comes in and shows you a dailies, they're okay, but don't you care if the yield max pays you on a month? How did it do at the full month? I don't care about the week. I don't care about the day. I mean, I know I'm showing you to see how it's doing, which fund's standing out, so it matters. Otherwise, if I tell you, oh, it beat, coin today, tell me what it did on the month, right? Because that's what it pays. If it's a weekly payer, tell me what it did on the week. All right. So 220, ICOII again, it's not keeping up. Leverage, okay, 166 from COII. Okay, Rex is, they're not showing me any leverage. Well, they did here. They got a 296 and they actually beat COIW. So they're in the running. They're not standing out. We'll look at more stats here. I'm ready to move to the competition. Okay, summary. All right, guys, I did it by fund, right, to help you see that. And then I did a little here because well, not everybody. What I should do is NVII, and I just noticed it. So you got three funds that I can show, or two funds in the underlying all the way back to 219. Okay. Then I have NVII, right? The Rex fund, really on a 528 launch. And then I have Granite on a 513 launch. So these are close enough, but they're not exact. Then I come down here and say, okay, I think Roundhill is superior. I think Roundhill is really good. So can I get excited about Rex? Yeah, I still can. Because what I did was I went and took Roundhill and said, okay, what if they started on 528? And I had to change all their numbers, right, to reflect that. It would have had a 41.44 price, right, instead of the 49.89. So their gain or loss is 22.64. But in fairness to NVII, right now they're beating them, right, 25% to 22. How about pay monies and percentage? Percentage is what matters, not. So NVII is paid $1.30. Well, they paid $2.98, but look at their price difference. Okay, they're a 50 current. NVII is a 31 current. So you got 3/5 here, 60%. So you'd expect 60% more out of their pay. And it's actually better than that. So your actual dividend return for 528 is 7.2%. And they've paid 521. So when you annualize that, you're beating in distribution. Okay. However, they're not beating in total return. But I suspect you have to continue to watch that. So I give the total, So I got to say, Rex is getting the job done. I got a 374 to a 335. If I own NVDW, I'm happy. I'm fine. I'm probably not going to move. But if I don't, Rex is doing a good job. So that's the kind of deeper dive analysis. I can do it sometimes. I mean, I should come down here with NVII and make them 528 instead of 513. But otherwise, you know, in this scenario, NVII is showing out, right? If you say, oh, this is a new guy, 513, well, so's this. So they're not keeping up with them. So I'll try to do more and throw it in, guys. It's just, you know, I get a few thousand viewers, you know, it pays very little. I'm trying to grow my channel. I'm trying to do more data, but to spend 6 or 8 hours on, you know, one scenario is just, you know, I'd rather spend the time trading and working on my account. I'm going to give you as much as I can, but just understand that. If you want to help me, help the channel, that's fine. You know, it's appreciated. But otherwise, it's just not, you know, the ROI is just not there. I mean, I make more in a trade than I do on my channel in a month. So it's fine. It's growing. I'm happy. I feel good about doing it. I feel good when I'm helping you guys. So I'm not in here telling you that. It's just I have to do my own, you know, cost analysis of where I spend my time. All right, let's look at the Tesla. Here, TSI is showing out. Now, second place of the fund. So everybody's 219 except for TSII 64. So naturally what I need, the problem is if I took Tesla, who's in second place, and tried to show them from 64, well, they're a monthly payer. These guys are a weekly payer. They either paid a bunch or they didn't pay a bunch, right? So it's not going to be a fair match in a very short time, weekly versus monthly. Because weekly may have 3 payments while we're waiting on the monthly to pay. Right. That's your problem. All right, guys, let's move to MSI. Let's look to the MicroStrategy payers. Well, naturally, the underlying wins, not up here, but the underlying wins. Who's really second place? Well, MST. Total return. Now, what do we know about MST? 200% leverage. The leverage works, okay, but if the market's not always moving up, you get hit by that. And it's never fair that they're going to hold 27 days to 132 days. So we got to just continue to watch it. I own some MST. I only bought 100 shares just to watch it to get the pay. And, you know, I'm up and down like a yo-yo in there. You know, I think I'm in it at high 20s, maybe 21. Um, and then I keep it with the pays. I was positive, and then with this last downturn, I looked at my summary, and I'm down slightly, right? But the payments, the frequent payments and the decent payments were getting me back even when it was $20 and I bought it at 21. So that's kind of what you want, but you have to ask yourself, you know, first off, if I really want to make money, I'll just play MSTR and do some options myself on that. I do own some Misty, not a lot, not like I used to when I used to have 4,000 or 5,000 shares. I mean, I got hundreds now only, less than 1,000. But it's fine. I'll leave some in there. And I actually don't want too much money because I'm already having to take my required minimum distribution, my RMDs, out of my 401k and IRA, well, really IRAs. So I don't need too much. I live pretty inexpensive, but there's times that I want to make as much as I can. So, you know, we're all greedy to some degree. Nothing wrong with that. All right, what else do we see here, guys? You know, 119, 100. IMST is showing up still with that big $7 payout. Are they the winner of? They're 4-3 and this is 5-2, so it's still not long enough to know. A lot of you smart guys said, "Hey, we got to watch it. $7 payment's attractive." Then when they came back with a 186, so what's the next one going to be? $2 or $3, or can they go back to a big payment? We shall see. We have a lot of 654, 654. People are finally coming into this. And you can't really compare MSTI to its underlying because it's never going to perform. So you have a NAV issue here, because you are higher, right? But that's not a bad total return. I'll take 72.49 and have a minus 19. So I'm not here just harping on NAV erosion. I harp on total return. All right, guys. So finally, let's look at and here's your summary. And I showed you these before. Here's what, because this is about Rex. This is what Rex paid. So on my COII, this thing is through the roof, but look at the date. Everybody else, I moved to 5.2 so that COIW and CONI and ICOI and some of these other guys would be fair here. Let's see if I'm picking up the right date. M2 on ICOI. That would be M21 if I'm looking for the summary. Oh, that is M21. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. N21, let's check it out. Yep, okay. And then COII should be picking up P25. Oh, why do I have, oh, this one. Yeah, it's picking it up, P25. Okay. Everybody else is the 21 level. All right, so you have, I set everybody at 81 days that I could, and then we got, so who's doing what over here? Well, COI's going to blow up and look awesome, right? Because it's, oh no, sorry, this is 5.2. That's what happens when I set them. The numbers just get outrageous, right? But that's all right. The only thing that's beating it, COIN's still beating it, right? So this is real in that it's annualized, but you know it's a short period. Is what's the actual? So the winner, in my opinion, here, COI, with everything set, is outpaying COIW, right? So bitwise, so I think that is. So the bitwise ICOI is outpaying, not by a lot, 2154 to 19. So that takes into account what's the prices of the stock. Look at these. They're almost priced the same, guys. 6012 to 5967. Oh, why isn't my weekly change picking up? F minus E. That's weird. Oh, I know what happened. Oh, I should have today minus 7. Oh, I see what it's doing. This isn't picking up current price, guys. Every once in a while, I do something in here, and this will fix that. And like I said, it's a lot of effort here. So apologize if you saw numbers. There we go. No, that's not going to work. That's not. Okay, that's got to be picking up. I can fix it. A33. Oh, it's going back to the other sheet, but I don't want it to go get it from the other sheet. I want it to get it like this. All right, I may have done that on one of the other ones. Sorry, guys, just to show you, there's a lot to keep up to speed. Okay, we're back to what I wanted. How did that change? Well, COII still looks awesome, just absolutely awesome. How does ICOI? ICOI is still on the dividend winning because the dividend, I verified that the dividend numbers are valid. Okay, 2154 to 1976. So that carries over. What about the NAV? Okay, and that's where ICOI, okay, inception is to today's price is up 4.64, which is 51. Okay, why is that? F minus C. That's how much it's grown. It's just flown up, guys. And the other guys didn't necessarily do that. So that's a big, remember I talk about the leverage is real? Well, if you're getting leverage on something like coin that's just flying, that's just outstanding. That's just, really, really moving up. It's almost keeping up with coin and it's paying you. So its total return is 19, that's included. Can't keep up with that underlying. So COI's coming in respectively. Coney lags in that, which is what I said to you. It's only a 40% capture of the last month. And then ICOI isn't really stacking up in total, right? It went from 54.7 to 62. Now, Coney's only up on the weekly change 241, but Coney's doing better in the gain or loss over this equal period than ICOI is. Let me pop up a chart, make sure I'm not missing anything on ICOI. And we'll wrap this up, guys. If you want to go, you can go. 62.91, that is accurate. Let's go back and look at the 5.2. So on 4.3, it was 48.42. On 5.2, it was 54.70 right there. So everything is valid. The prior week, yeah, I know that's working. Okay, guys, that's what I got for you on these funds. Again, this is the Rex payouts, and this should help you a lot. It helps me if I'm going to make decisions after doing Roundhill and watching it. I wouldn't call myself a fanboy. I'll never be a complete fanboy, so Roundhill, no need to come out and say, hey, keep doing, I hope you appreciate, but I'm just doing it because I think you're doing one of the best. I like what Granite is doing lately, guys, but keep an eye on them. Make sure you don't get too much NAV erosion in Granite, but Granite is paying very well. All right, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. This is what I got for you on your Monday evening. Have a great week ahead. Bye for now.